minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today, and I want to thank our committee witnesses for being here. It's been 15 months since this subcommittee last held an FCC oversight hearing, so we have lots to go over today, and I know a lot has been said so far. Commissioner Carr, it's been over 3 months since the FCC Spectrum Auction Authority expired. I have a lot of constituents waiting to be provided 5G service with that 2.5 gigahertz spectrum band that you mentioned in your testimony. Can you explain what's going on with the licensing of the spectrum band?
Yeah, actually, I think the FCC's authority to issue those 2.5 gigahertz licenses is clear. I think the statutory analysis is very straightforward. Our Section 309J authority to conduct new auctions has expired. Our Section 309A authority to issue licenses, including licenses won at previous auctions, has not expired. In fact, if you look at the FCC decision to issue licenses won at auctions, we cite our 309A authority, which again is continuing, not our 309J authority. In fact, there's a very similar case, basically directly on point, a 2003 case, Ranger Cellular, where our then lottery authority expired, including language that said shall issue, but our 309A authority continued, and the FCC issued those licenses. Our general counsel went to the DC Circuit and said effectively it doesn't make any sense to read that the statute having to do with our then lottery authority having expired prevented us from issuing licenses. And so this is why I think you saw 4 FCC general counsels write a letter from various administrations saying that we can move forward with our licensing of that spectrum. I'm a former general counsel, so maybe there's 5 now that agree with that view. And if we did so, it would effectively light up spectrum for 50 million Americans. And in many cases, this is spectrum and that the radios, the antennas are already up there. So the flip of a switch, we can bring 50 million Americans across the digital divide or get them better service. I think that's something that we should take right now.
So let me understand, how do we get that done? And how do we have a sense of urgency about getting this done? How do we fix this?
Would require an action by the commission. It's one that I support, but I let my colleagues sort of speak for their views.
Okay. Is it possible for the United States to lead the world in 5G and 6G if we do not have a robust mid-band spectrum pipeline and like the major economies that we compete with?
We have to make more progress on mid-band. When I first started the commission the first 4 years, we moved a lot of mid-band spectrum out the door. We need to sort of double down and get back on moving mid-band spectrum at the same pace that we did there. I put forward some ideas on how we could do that. I have a spectrum calendar out there, including some mid-bands. We need to move a little faster on that.
In 2021, Democrats created a $7.1 billion emergency connectivity fund to support distance learning. Is there still a need for this fund given schools have returned to in-person instruction and the E-rate program is already in place?
Well, most directly, we still have a lot of funding left over, my understanding, in ECF at the moment.
So is that funding still needed, or should it be clawed back?
Well, fundamentally, we should take a broader relook at all of these programs, including, to your point, the move back to school and see what continues to be necessary. But ECF right now is ongoing because the funding remains.
Chair Rosenworcel, why hasn't the FCC implemented the Inspector General's recommendation to request the last 4 digits of an applicant's Social Security number as a fraud prevention tool?
Well, we invite any applicant for the ACP to put in their Social Security number information, but as you might know, when Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, it also made eligible for the ACP households with a student on the free and reduced lunch program and the Women, Infants, and Children program. Both of those programs do not require a Social Security number. So what we've done in the alternative is say, well, you've got to prove that you are who you say you are. So you can submit, for instance, a military ID or a passport or something like that in the alternative.
So the ACP applicants should provide the last 4 digits of their Social Security number?
You have to prove you are who you say you are. So you can provide a Social Security number, but you could also provide a taxpayer identification number or a military ID like I just described.
Okay, well, good. I've got a couple more questions. I will submit those, but I'm out of time, so I'll yield back. Mr. Chairman.